JB, Back It Up Binge podcast. Got a special episode here with me tonight talking football, A.J. Duhe. A.J., welcome to the program.
Welcome, JB. Time to talk some old stories and old life of the old school game a little bit.
Absolutely excited to have you here. One of my all-time favorite Dolphins. I was going through your career getting ready for this program, and I started realizing all the NFL great games you were in and all the great legendary Dolphin games. So I want to talk to you about a few quick games, but there's something I wanted to ask you about beforehand. I came across something in the Dolphins 1980 media guide in your bio about a high school game you were in. Let's see if you remember this. And I'll read it to you. It says, he won the LSU scholarship by blocking 3 punts in a high school all-star game. How did you block 3 punts in a game?
Well, that's kind of right, but it's not all. So I basically already had my scholarship offered to LSU. I got my LSU scholarship by basically as a junior in high school. I went to an awful high school. We won 3 games is the most we ever won in one season. 3.
Okay.
So we were playing one of the teams that were always in the playoffs every, football season. Had an offensive tackle recruited by probably every college in the country. And I'm just a guy playing on a 3-win team, as a junior. And I kind of basically said, I ate his lunch, as we call it, right? And 2 or 3 days later, the LSU coach came over scouting and said, I was at that game. We were scouting Michael Williams, and you dominated him like I've never seen a player dominate a guy that good. And I said, I was just playing my ass off, just getting after it like I always do. And they offered me a scholarship, and that's how I got my – but at the All-Star game, I did block 3 punts. But I blocked punts – I tried to block a punt every game in high school. That was kind of something that the coaches said, you're good at it, just find the guy you think you can beat and go get him. So, I just but it's true, three block punts in an All-Star game. But the head coach of LSU did come to me in the locker room saying, we're going to find a spot for you to play this year as a freshman. So I was jacked, yeah.
I got to tell you something. When I was going, again, like I said, I went through a lot of your games. There was always an A.J. Duhe moment in all these games. And we'll get to some of them. You sacked Pastorini. There was a whole in the NFL films about the Super Bowl against the Redskins, how they schemed against you. And we'll get all that. We'll get into all that. But it's amazing. During your career, you did get after it. And every one of these games I looked at, there's A.J. Duhe. There's A.J. Duhe. So the first game I wanted to ask you about, 1977, St. Louis. You go into St. Louis on Thanksgiving Day. Everybody knows this game as the greasy game, 6 TDs. But I read some articles where when the team headed into St. Louis, the media was pretty brutal on the Dolphins. They basically said, the only thing on the Dolphins roster is Shula. So they discounted the whole team. I read quotes by Nat Moore, who was upset. It sounded like it was chalkboard material. Does that actually exist in the NFL? And did that writing get the team together to go out and play that good that day?
It was my rookie year, so I didn't know much about, like you said, pin up posters on the board to read articles.
Yeah.
But that year we had 5 rookies starting on defense because we were in a rebuilding mode. The 17-0 team was kind of fizzling out. Some of the guys went to the World League, to play in the new league that was developing. And in the St. Louis Cardinals were the number 1 seed. They probably would have been the number 1 seed in the NFC at that point because I think their record was maybe only 1 loss or 2 losses, and we were kind of scrambling. We were at a 500 level, possibly maybe. And I know one of the even a hometown sports writer wrote that looks like in St. Louis they'll be having dolphin for Thanksgiving. Okay.
Really?
Yes. A local report. Here you got to hear me out. So basically, we go up there and
wow.
And I read the article, but I'm a rookie. I'm not paying attention to articles. I'm paying attention like I just got to go out and play. I just got to prove that I'm worth my play every snap. So we're routing them and beating the dog out of them, and there was a big fight in that game. You know the article. There was a bench. Okay, so we're playing. Greasy's lighting up the field. Defense is shutting them down. They had one of the most powerful offenses in the league at that time. That their strength was their offense, and we're shutting them down. They're not going. And I tell people I invented trash talking. I think I did. I think I invented trash talking. Okay, so because all the teams that we played against, they all said, "You need to shut up, rookie." You know what I mean? Like it was just in my DNA, just to chat. Huh?
Well, let me ask you something, because at the end of that game, it's 55-14. There's about a minute left. They put their backup quarterback in. They run Jim Otis to the left where you're the down lineman. You shed the block. You slow him up. You wound up falling down. And then out of nowhere comes the dirtiest player in the NFL at that time, and that's his reputation. Conrad Dobler jumps on you and attacks you, and then fight breaks out. You break it up. A couple of plays later.
That you almost got it right. So, but what happened was that happened. That play happened, and basically the other guys on defense were seeing that things were getting a little rattled, and they're using every curse word in the book to say, "Shut up, AJ. Just get the hell out of here." So Coach Shula pulls me off the field, and he puts in an offensive guard. There was a guy who was a backup offensive guard. He said, "I'll go play that position for the next few downs." So I'm on the sideline, and the next thing you know, Conrad Dobler goes after Bob Matheson, who was a linebacker, and the two of them start tangling and jostling a little bit. And before you know it, our defense was fighting their offense. It got ugly. Their bench cleared. Our bench is cleared. Come to find out, it was the most highly fined game in NFL history at that time. Nowadays, one guy gets fined maybe a tenth of that. You know what I mean? Maybe that's like 23 fines were handed out. It was boatloads of them, right? So we're in the meeting room after the game, and Coach Shula's naming, okay, Larry Little, $50. Bob Baumheier, 25. It was like $25 and $50 fines, right? And all of a sudden he said, "That's embarrassing. We shouldn't have any. That's an embarrassment to the organization." And then Larry Little stood up and he goes, "Why do you call AJ's name?" Coach Shula kind of goes, "He was on the bench. He never left the bench." Because I just think me and Greasy and about 8 of us just stayed on the sideline. We didn't do anything.
Well, it's funny you say that, Larry Little's name, because when you watch the video on the second fight that had the 23 fines after that, they pan to about 10 yards down the field, and there's Larry Little on the field, even though it was the Cardinals' ball, and he's fighting on the field. It was incredible. But Dobler had a bad reputation, but he went after you that first time, and the next thing you know, there's a pile there. Bo Camper's in. He's throwing haymakers. So it was actually you that started it? Is that what you're telling me?
No, my mouth started it. Me running my mouth so much started it.
Well, that's you.
Yeah, and Dobler and Banks and who else? There was like Young. I mean, they had like 3 All Pros on that offensive line. They were beasts. They were big boys. I mean, Young he might have been the first 300-pound guy I had ever seen. 300. So, but it was kind of the thing is, the guy who wrote the story, he came into the locker room after the game. Kuchenberg took him by his shirt, took him in the shower, pinned him up against the shower, and just let him get soaking wet.
Really? Oh, that's a great story. Thanks for sharing that. All right, let's go to the next game I wanted to ask you about. Next year, Monday night, you go into Houston, you're taking on the Oilers. Everyone sees this game and they see the replays, and it's Earl's game, right? He's got 28 carries, 199 yards, 4 TDs. Was he the hardest running back you ever faced? And if not, who was?
I mean, he's got to be in the top 3 or 4. I mean, basically, Billy Sims was a beast. I mean, Billy Sims didn't have a long career. He got hurt early in his career, maybe played 5 or 6 seasons, maybe. I mean, but he ran with so much tenacity and so much oomph. He was tough. William Andrews, I don't know, he played running back for the Atlanta Falcons. Yep. Another one of those guys, 6'3", 4", well over 230 pounds. I mean, those guys come with some junk. I mean, so Riggins obviously playing against him in the Super Bowl, he was a tough big monster. Then you had the shifty guys like Dorsett, Marcus Allen. I'd rather hit a big guy coming at me slow than try and catch a fast guy who I can't catch up with. So I mean.
What's interesting about that game, and Earl's my favorite running back of all time because he was a beast. But what was interesting about that game, 28, 199, 4 TDs. You faced him later in the year in the playoffs, and you guys just shut him down. He was, 26 carries, 84 yards. I mean, what'd you do differently between those two games to shut him down?
I mean, that's kind of a ways back. I remember the game in the Astrodome where he just kind of trucked, I think, our backer in our corner and just went. I think he took it for like 80-something yards. Didn't he have 80-something yards?
That was in the Monday night game, and he outran Curtis Johnson. But you weren't on the field because you had gotten injured earlier in the fourth quarter. You sacked Pastorini for a safety.
I kind of dislocated my shoulder. and then I missed the rest of that game, right? But it was... It was when we came back to play him in the playoffs, so that was down in the Orange Bowl. We must have played him, correct? Because I don't remember of all the playoff games.
Yeah, it was a home game. That's right. It was
You sent me the notes. I was kind of remembering. I'm not savvy enough to go dig up the history of the game, but I'm going to believe you. We shut him down. But did we win the game?
No, you didn't.
Okay, maybe that's why I don't want to remember it. Yeah, maybe that's why I don't want to remember it. Okay.
Only remember the wins, right? So. Here's a legendary NFL game of all time, right? So it's 82, coming into the Orange Bowl in the playoffs, Air Coryell, Fouts, Joyner, Chandler, Muncie, Winslow. Playoff game, Chargers. What was the mood that you guys had going into that game, knowing it's Air Coryell? Were you confident that you guys were going to take them on and beat them? Because they had no defense,
right? But
they had a great offense.
We felt that if we could kind of minimize what they were doing on offense, we would have a chance because our offense was not. That was the Woodstock area. I mean, even though Strock did come in to play for Woodley, in the end towards the. I think he came in the second quarter because he's the one who threw the hook and lateral. Right. But I mean, that game, I got toasted twice, because back that was my first couple of years playing a linebacker. And, we had a bunch of blitzes where, I almost wanted to check out of them because I knew I was going to get whipped. And I just kind of didn't want to be the guy like, oh, you never want to cover a running back out of the backfield. And sure enough, they ran 2 routes when I had to cover, not Muncie, but I'm trying to think, it wasn't Joe Cribbs, but I'm trying to think of the
James Brooks.
James Brooks. So, I had to catch him. I had him man-to-man, and he did one of those routes where he went out of the backfield across the formation. So I had to try and cut through all the traffic and get to him. And, that was a wasted cause for me there. But that game was very, very impactful in us because I think it made us really dig down deep the following years after that.
Yeah, so you mentioned Woodstock, 24-0. You guys must have been shocked. I was watching the game. I always had this feeling you were going to come back. Next thing you know, he puts in Strock, 24-10, 6 seconds left in the half. He runs the hook and lateral. Where were you when that play happened?
I was one of the biggest fans of our team. Whenever I came off the field as a defensive player, we got together as a group. The coaches would kind of like tell us, okay, look, that was a good series. Just keep it up, keep up the pace, keep up the intensity, or go through some kind of corrections. As soon as that ended, I jumped my butt right on the sideline where I can see our team playing offense. I'm a gym rat. I just love sports. I just love the action and stuff. So I saw it. I mean, the lateral happened kind of right in front of me where I was standing. I mean, like I saw Duhe catch it and threw the little hook to Tony, and I'm kind of going, downtown, baby, here we go. Every
time I watch that play, AJ, I always watch, again, one of my favorite players of all time is Tony Nathan. I always see him put the football up, and I'm like, get over the goal line. Then the guy almost catches him, right? And then he gets over. But I actually read some articles about Cephalo and Beaucamper had some negative opinions of Winslow being carried off the field. And I was just curious, what are your thoughts when you look back at that game? And that's literally probably a top 5 game all time.
I mean, I think about it as just a tough way to lose. I mean, we fought our butts off to get back and come back and take the lead. And and all of a sudden the game to get tied again. And we missed, I think maybe, did we miss one field goal or
missed
two?
One or two, yeah.
We missed one or two. And then they had the chance to kick the game winner, and it was just a sad way to end the game. I mean, we had our chance to win the game. We fought back as hard as we could. Defense kind of shut them down in the second half. And,
yeah, you did. You did.
But Winslow, I mean, the guy was, as many times they threw to him, as much yardage as he was gaining, I can see how he was exhausted. I mean, the guy was, he was a whip dog, you know.
Yeah. All right, next game. This is an interesting game because I just saw the result of this game from 1982 happen 2 weeks ago in the playoffs with snow-covered ground. It's the Snowplow game. And 3 weeks ago, they had snow on the ground, and the players were wiping off the field because of the Snowplow game. They ruled that you can't go on the field with the machine and clear off a spot. What was it like playing in that game? First off, it was freezing cold. I saw a stat the other day. Dolphins are the last 13 games with a sub 40-degree kickoff. They're 0-13. You have the Snowplow game. I mean, what was it? First off, just before I ask you that or answer that, the play before the field goal, I don't know if you remember this play. I was watching the highlights. Tony Collins gets the handoff, and he fumbles, and you and Baumhauer fall on him, but he recovered his own fumble. Next thing you know, Myers calls the guy over. He clears the path. The guy kicks the field goal, 3-0, and you lose. I mean, what was that? What was it like playing in the Snowplow game?
I mean, just playing in the snow was kind of a new item in my life. That was the first time I had ever played in snow. I'd seen snow. I mean, I used to go snow skiing when I was in college. But, in Louisiana growing up, I never saw the snow. We never played any games in cold weather. No teams in the Southeast Conference see snow unless it's kind of one of those crazy storms that happened just a week or so ago where it dropped all the snow in New Orleans and Alabama and Mississippi. But, it kind of caught us all by surprise. I mean, we're just sitting on the sideline, and all of a sudden the guy comes clearing the line of scrimmage, and because they were clearing the line of scrimmages like on TV timeouts. They were doing that. So I'm just thinking maybe a timeout was called. They come and the guy does, and then he makes his little path, where he kind of come cover up. And man, we're just kind of going, what the hell's going on? And Coach Shula was yelling and screaming, and everything happened so fast. There was no rules in place, or the refs couldn't stop the clock. It was the first time, and last time. So we kind of got the back end of that.
Yeah.
Here's another thing about cold weather. Look, you're talking about cold weather. Funny story. We played the Buffalo Bills the last game of the season in the Orange Bowl, which is probably back in those days was maybe like a week or so before Christmas. I think the season used to end before Christmas back in our days, right? I go outside, and it was a cold front in Florida. It was like 56, 57 degrees. I go outside for, pregame warm-ups, loosen up, make sure I got the right cleats on. I go back inside, and I kind of go to the equipment manager. I kind of go, I need one of the long-sleeve shirts. And in Bo Camper, and I think it might have been Brzezinski, they're standing there next to me, and they're kind of going, AJ, we're playing at home.
That's great.
Here I am, a softie. I'm a softie. I wanted my warm clothes on.
So it does affect the team going from a warm weather to a cold weather, and we're seeing that with the current team. Yeah, okay.
It's true. I mean, they can say all they want about, they're acclimated. No, it gets in your head a little bit. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, 1983 Jets Miami AFC Championship game. You're known for this game. How do you feel in this AFC Championship game against the Jets, 14-0? You ask any Dolphin fan and probably any NFL fan about this game, and they're going to go right to your name. How does it feel to be related to this game after all these years?
It feels great from people giving me the comments about, man, that was one of the greatest games I've ever seen. I can't remember that. I was a fifth grader. I went to the game with my dad and this and that. Jet fans always kind of go, you ruined my life. I'm kind of like, bro, that's 40 years ago. Get over it, man. 40 years ago.
Well, what's interesting that you say that is, and I wanted to ask you, this is my next question, but I'll cue it up. About 2-3 weeks ago, I saw somebody on Twitter post, and it was a Jets fan, how Shula cheated by not covering the field. right?
Okay, so the story, I'll tell you the story on that, okay? So basically, like when you get those up north, when you guys get that snow and it snows for 3, 4, 5 days, basically when it gets to about South Carolina, it starts turning into rain, right? So we had rain for 4 or 5 days in a row. And it was getting so bad that our practice field was in crappy condition even, But the Orange Bowl, when they turned it over from AstroTurf to real grass, it was kind of what they call it. It was called a prescription athletic turf. So it was right. Grass that was grown on farms, and they put it played on the same flat field because back in the old days you had the little turtlebacks. Remember, high schools and everything. You never had rain in the field because they had the turtlebacks. So when they went to AstroTurf, they made the fields flat. They were all flat, and they still are to today. And I think grass fields are flat today because they've gotten the drainage system so sophisticated after probably learning about what happened in the Orange Bowl in '83 that year.
Right.
So basically, we get to the stadium and it's like, what the? We go out for warm-ups and it's like, everywhere you walk, it's like feel like you're walking in mush, right? So I went and put on some bigger cleats. I did change my cleats. A lot of guys change their cleats to some longer cleats. Maybe the Jets didn't bring that equipment with them, but most of us went to longer cleats. But come to find out, about 15, 20 years ago, a young man came up to me and said, I got a story to tell you about the Orange Bowl and that game you played in. He said, my uncle used to work for the county, and he was one of his jobs is taking care of the Orange Bowl facility. He said, with all that rain that came in, he says, the pump system failed on maybe like on Thursday or Friday, right?
Wow, I didn't know that.
They couldn't get the thing to get working again. So that system that was put in place to drain all the water into like a canal or something like that went bad. So that's why all the water was just kind of like sitting on that flat surface, for those 3 or 4 days. And I can see how the Jet fans are mad about it, but they're saying Coach.
You know what, AJ? 2 teams played in that game, and people forget it was nothing at halftime. And here are the stats. The Dolphins D held the Jets to 139 yards, 5 INTs, and 4 sacks. Phenomenal game, right? The Jets held Miami to 198 yards, 3 INTs, and 1 fumble recovery. Dolphins weren't doing anything that great either. Nothing halftime. You had the 3 interceptions. First one, Augustiniak deflects the ball. You catch it, interception. Second one, you're covering him like a blanket out of the backfield, and you picked it off. Then the Dolphins drive 7-0. Then you have the third one where he flared out Harper, and you shed the tackle, and you intercepted it 14-0. How do you explain how you were so in the zone that game? I mean, that is your game. When people can say whatever they want, that is an A.J. Duhe game right there.
But I'm telling you right now, Jeff, I think I'm in the zone right now. I mean, that's the way I am. I mean, I just, my little grandkids, they kind of love me, man, because I'm so excited. And I always want to just, let's get amped up and let's go play and let's, that's my DNA. I mean, so, but the thing is, look, talking about the interception where we scored on that drive, right?
Right. That was the second one.
The first touchdown. There I am again. Go to the sidelines, get our little chat going on. Okay, any adjustments? Nope. I go right to being a fan of the game again. Right, I'm on the sideline. I'm tuned in. Andre Franklin runs the ball. He fumbles. The Jets recovered it, but they called him down by contact.
That's right. Good point.
They had instant replay back then. No touchdown. Okay. Right. So I mean, because I saw it happen and they recovered. I'm kind of going, damn, and all of a sudden the referee comes in. Oh no, he was down. His knee was down or something, And
that's a good point. I forgot that. Yeah. Yep. And what's funny too is Woody scored the touchdown, and he's an ex-Jet. Yeah. He was the ex-Jet. Right. I also read an article. I read an article. You kept a souvenir from that game.
I have the cleats.
Yeah.
And it still had some little mud, between the sole and the shoe. There's a little mud in the cracks, Yeah, I mean, they might be worth some money one day on eBay. I told my kids, look, when I go, y'all can sell whatever you want. I told them,
There you go. Monetize, AJ, monetize. So you wound up playing in 2 Super Bowls, 17 and 19, Redskins, 49ers. What's it like for a player and a team to go from regular season playoffs? Now all of a sudden you're on the world stage. How much is it a distraction to your routine?
Coach Shula didn't let change take place much. I mean, we were right back down to being focused. Let's put our game plans in. Let's get some good practice sessions in. Let's get focused on the job at hand. I mean, I don't think it was any. I don't remember any anxiety or any feelings of like, oh, I can't do this. I can't come. Oh, this is too big of a stage for me. I never felt that way, and I would think most of the guys on the team had that same kind of mentality. The only thing is, like you said, 17, 19. Now we're at 59. Kind of, damn, 17, 19. That 59 now. What's going on, right?
Yeah, I mean, these are two games I never watch highlights of, and I'm, as a fan, it's a little different than players. I'm sure you'd like to have won one or both, but we talked about Riggins. I was going to ask you about him. Super Bowl 19, you go up against Montana. What was it like going up against him? I mean, I'm hearing things and reading things now that if Mahomes wins his third in a row, he's now the second place GOAT. I mean, Montana's a guy I grew up with watching. I still think he's up there. He's actually said Marino's the best. What was it like facing Montana? Was he the best quarterback you ever went up against?
Well, I mean, I played against Terry Bradshaw. He had his strengths. I mean, I played against Joe Ferguson, a guy who played for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, He wasn't that bad. I mean, Joe kept that team competitive, even during the periods when we had like a 12 or 13 game winning streak against them. I mean, he was still the guy up there. I mean, Dan Fouts. I mean, there were some good players, some older age players. Roman Gabriel was a real good player, but now today's quarterback is kind of like the guy. He's the captain of the ship. I mean, back in those days, it was a team concept. Today, it's like you got to find a guy who can run the show and make it go. And like you said, Joe Montana did it. In that generation, I think Danny, Elway, Montana. I think that's kind of when quarterbacks became like, this is the guy, this is the go-to guy, this is the guy we can build our franchise around. And like Montana said, Danny was the best thrower of the ball. I mean, unfortunately, the teams he played with and weren't that good, but he was probably the best passer of the ball. And you might be able to evaluate that on your own and give your own opinion, but I think so. But Montana, with the records he has, the wins he has, the number of Super Bowls they won, he deserves to be in that GOAT. It's not the GOAT. There's GOATs. You can have a form of GOATs. I mean, most farmers like a lot of GOATs in their farm.
Quite frankly, we talked about two guys so far on this so far. I'm glad you brought Bradshaw because he doesn't get his due with 4 rings. Monster arm. I was watching some highlights of him, but if I was to start an all-time franchise, it would go quarterback first, and that would be Marino, and second would be Earl Campbell. You faced Riggins, you faced some really good guys in your career. Do you have a Super Bowl prediction coming up?
Well, I took the over in both games the other day. Okay, so I mean, I wasn't pulling for nobody. I'm pulling for scoring. My wife and I were sitting there. She goes, "Who are you pulling for? Who are you pulling for?" I go, "Touchdowns." And she goes, "What do you mean?"
Well, I'm going for the Chiefs. I know people are tired of them, but I as a Dolphins fan, I fought appreciating Brady, and I'm not going to allow that to happen with Mahomes because he is one of the best I've ever seen. Go ahead,
JB. Let me tell you. Okay, getting back to the game, right? I'm going to pull for the Chiefs. Okay, I'm trying to. I worked in the gambling business for a long, long time. I worked in the casino business for a long, long time. I'm retired now. I'm trying to find somebody who wants to take this is the bet I want to bet. Because when I used to go to the casinos, I would be able to, bet the money line, or something like that, right? I want to bet the Chiefs -5.5.
Chiefs -5.5.
I want to bet the Chiefs. So that means I should get a +410, maybe. I mean, okay. I need to find somebody who takes that bet.
Okay.
Because I think they're going to win by 6 or more. I mean, that's kind of that's me.
Okay. Yeah, it's amazing with those.
I'm being Jimmy the Greek in 2025. You know what I mean? Yeah.
There you go. It's amazing what those two guys have done together. I mean, just the fact that he's in all those championships games is just incredible to me. Let me move to one guy you played for, Don Shula. He is my all-time favorite coach of any of the sports I follow. I met him multiple times. He was very, very nice guy to me, but you had to play for him. Do you have any good Shula stories to share?
I mean, there's lots of Shula stories. I mean, the one that I like to talk about is when we were undefeated and we went to play San Diego. I'm thinking that might have been the Montana. That might have been the
84.
year we lost. I think we were undefeated going into San Diego. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
So, I made a bad call. I didn't get the adjustments correct. They run a playoff tackle. They score a touchdown, or a walk-off touchdown. And man, we get in the locker room and, I'm taking a shower. I was just kind of catching heat from the media. What happened on the adjustments? And I go in the shower and Coach Shula's, the coaches just showered with the players and I'm showering up and he kind of goes, "What the hell happened on that play?" Because he knew I'm the signal caller, I said, "Well, Coach, they came out in the formation that, Ornsey was talking about all week long that, we got to make sure that we're in backer support and the safety trying to put me in safety support." So I'm arguing with him. As I'm arguing with him, they snap the ball. I get hooked by the tight end. The guy goes around the corner and just, maybe breaks one tackle or just was an open field and runs for a touchdown. So I kind of took that personal. He was trying to shoulder the blame on me, but he just really wanted an answer. But as a person, I'm kind of going, damn, he's gonna put the shit on me. It's crazy. So my mom and dad used to come in town at least once or twice a season, and my mom would always make a big pot of gumbo. I'm from Louisiana, and gumbo is like lasagna for Italians or whatever. So my mom makes a big pot of gumbo, and I brought it to training camp. And I gave it to the equipment manager. I said, just kind of, keep it on low heat, on the stove, and we'll have lunch, for everybody when we come out after practice, like for our lunch break. It was one of those days where we had a walkthrough in the morning. It was a walkthrough in the morning. So all of a sudden, I'm telling the guys on the team, I'm telling my position coach, I'm telling Sandusky, I like Sandusky a lot. He was an offensive line coach, and I knew he loved gumbo, but I didn't tell Shula, right? So we're practicing, and I'm still pissed at him. I don't know. He might not. I'm still pissed at him for him trying to put the blame on me. Right? I'm still holding that, like God, So all of a sudden, we're walking up the field. Goes, AJ, come here. Why didn't you tell me they have gumbo today? And that kind of broke the ice. We hugged, and kind of, made up. But it was kind of to me, that's a funny story. Because it was kind of I was going through a rough 3 or 4 days, damn, I'm the guy, I'm a guy that ruined undefeated again, So
Gumbo Gate, huh? Gumbo Gate. There you go.
Yeah.
Which teammate had the most?
There's others, but some of them are kind of a little too private, so I don't want to talk about it. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I appreciate that. It was a great story. What teammate had the most impact on you?
Had the most impact on me? Defensively, probably like Vern Den Herder, because he was the senior defensive lineman when I was playing defensive line in my first 3 years in the league. I kind of looked up to him. I always kind of tried to follow the way he did things in terms of, preparing, watching film, maybe asking questions. You can't go in there as a rookie and just start, even though I was a trash talker, I wasn't, I didn't talk trash on my coaches. I respected them tremendously. But I just wanted to kind of figure out how to be a pro. And then on the offensive line, I had guys to work against: Kuchenberg, Larry Little, Jim Langer. These guys were all pros, 4, 5, 6 years in the NFL, just working against them, and working hard enough to where they liked it. And, I never would work too hard because they would get a little pissed off. I didn't want my own guys, I didn't want to have another Conrad Dorbler episode, They just working against my own teammates. So I guess those guys, probably gave me the most influence early on in my career. Hopefully, after my third or fourth year, I was a guy giving influence on some of the younger players.
Right. Did you ever go? You went up against John Hanna, right, on the Patriots?
Hanna, man, he's probably the guy that he broke my face mask off my helmet. He hit me so
Really?
Yeah. In other words, when we would take on the blocker, we'd kind of come at him with both hands engaged and kind of like try and do our best to kind of press him off and find the ball, because we played what they call two gap. Nowadays everybody's just firing in from angles and taking angles. Back in our day, we played a two gap kind of no penetration defense unless we had a blitz on it. If we have a blitz on, obviously it's different. But in every down and distance, so he comes at me and just bam, and my face mask breaks off my helmet. You know what I mean? Like I had to run to the sidelines to get it changed, and I didn't concuss. And that's the other thing. I don't know how so many guys get concussions these days. I don't know what, unless they're playing at such a high, fast rate of speed, and the impact is so high. That's got to be it, because I remember taking a lot of head-on-head shots back in our day.
Yeah, it is at an all-time high, and a lot of them are leading with their heads, though. Do you see that when you watch? Yeah.
No. Yeah, I see that, but that wasn't something that, But we used to lead. We used to always try and lead with our, like growing up as a kid. The coach said you got to see what you're tackling, so we had our faces more up. You know what I mean? So we used to work on our necks a lot. Everybody had necks like this back in the day.
So two more questions for you. One, you played for Arnsparger and you played for Studley. What was it like switching? What was it like, the contrast between those two? Because Arnsparger is the equivalent of Shula for me as a D coordinator.
Right. So Arns was the master of defensive alignments and corrections and adjustments. I mean, he told it to you where you can understand it. I mean, he wasn't trying to talk to us like he's teaching calculus and we should be in elementary math. I mean, it was kind of like he talked on our level, always calm, never. He raised his voice occasionally. Studley came in like, I'm the new sheriff in town. Just kind of came in with, instead of saying, hey guys, man, y'all been great for the last 4 or 5 years. What works? I thought he would have kind of asked us some of our takes on what were the best things we did defensively. He didn't want to hear none of that. He just wanted to implement what his scheme was. And as you can see, it only, what he lasted 2 or 3 years, maybe? I don't know. It wasn't long at all.
He was the D coordinator, though, for the Super Bowl 19, because Arnsparger had left. Yeah.
I think that was the last. Okay. I think that might have been his last game. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I got one more for you, AJ, and this is a fan question, and I'm going to cue it up. It's Rob from Florida, and he's a big fan of yours. The YouTube community, Dolphin community, will know him as Dolphin Thirsty. He wanted to ask, I told him I was going to meet with you. You're his favorite player. He says that he only owns one jersey, and it's yours. And he said he met you years ago. I don't know this because I don't live down in Florida, at Burdine's at Dadeland Mall back in the day. He has a picture.
Burdine. It's Burdine. It's a store that went out of business probably 20 years ago or something like that. Yeah. So he definitely met that. He met me when I was a player. Yeah.
Yeah, he met you there. There's a picture of you and him. He said, ask him if he's ever talked to Richard Todd after the playing days.
I have. I did. I talked to Richard twice since that day. I mean, I talked to him at Bob Baumhauer's wedding, because Bob Baumhauer got married. I got married during my playing career. Bob got married at the end of his career, and Richard and him were teammates. So I saw him at that time for the first time, and we, just had some drinks together, laughed and giggled, and I told him I'm still open or something like that, whatever, maybe just kind of cracking on him. And then I saw him again at Bob's son's wedding, which was about 2 years ago. So I saw him, the 2 times I saw him was at Baumhauer's wedding and then Baumhauer's son's wedding. And, we had some laughs and giggles. I mean, the first go around, he probably took it a little personal, but the last go around, it was, like I said, 38, 40 years removed. And, he's holding off of it himself, right?
There you go. Hey, AJ, this has been absolutely phenomenal. I really enjoyed talking to you. I really appreciate you coming on. You're one of my all-time favorite Dolphins. I'm a huge Dolphin fan. You're one of the guys that are in my top 5. Loved your playing career. Loved going back and looking at these games because it not only reminded me of your career, but also of my memories. So I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on. You have an open invitation on the binge whenever you want to come on.
Jeff, I can talk to you a lot more, and I can give you some good stories. We'll do it off air. I mean, and you kind of go, I can see why you didn't want to say that on air, okay?
Okay, that's a deal. And I'm never in Louisiana, but if you're ever up in Jersey, come on by. A cup of coffee and what we'll do.
I live in Florida right now. I haven't moved from Florida since I quit playing. No.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, I'm still here in South Florida. But I'll tell you a couple of stories that you're gonna just think that there's no way you did that, AJ.
Okay. Well, I'm going to hold you to that. Definitely going to hold you to that. We're going to have you back on here, but we'll have the stories that you can talk about. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for doing this. Really appreciate it. Totally enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
God bless you. Happy New Year. Okay.